Alright, this is a rough video storyboard of a story of my encounters with octopus. Dan MaQ and the octopi. The scene: Portugal, the place, Portugal, Lisboa, the port, pier, and here's the scene. Let's see, we got over here the USS Incheon. That's my ship. And then there's a representation with like scribble stick figures, far view of sailors and Marines. We had just pulled into port, and there's like a little pier with a beer guy there. And at the end of the pier there, you see, looking down from the end of the pier, there's rocks, and then the ocean waves come up onto the rocks. It's the port of Lisbon in Portugal. And that's like the scene. Over here, sailors and Marines, beer guy, this is me, end of the pier, this is the scene where it happens. The rocks, the waves. Okay, here's me with a beer, sitting there, looking down at the rocks and the waves, the little shells and, you know, critters running around in there. And this guy comes up under the water here, this octopus, a gigantic octopus actually, about as big as me, maybe bigger. So I bought a beer, and I sat alone at the end of the pier. A giant octopus was suddenly below me in the water. It started crawling up the rocks and reaching at my feet. I had boots on. So I poured some of my beer on him. And this is like what the view would be if you were standing above me, behind me. Here's me and my beer, my legs going down, the back of my head with a baseball cap on, and then down here on the rocks below, this gigantic octopus. He crawls up, and he's sitting there reaching at my feet. So I don't know, I poured some beer on him. I felt that was what I felt I should have done at the time. So this is what happens. The octopus proceeds to go through what I imagine was a full display of what his skin could do. It was better than any show or movie because this was skin communication. We hung out for a while and shared the beer and sunset. So let me re-explain that. This is what happened. It went through every pattern and color I could imagine that I don't even think computer graphics designers could reproduce what the thing did. It did strobe effects. It did all the colors of the spectrum pretty much, and it gave me just a disco light show of its skin. And then it chilled out and sat there underneath me for a while on the rocks, and it was just like reaching up and trying to touch my boot. It couldn't reach it. It was pretty far down. Let's see if I look up here. It looks like he could almost touch me, but he was still like 3 feet away. It looks like he could almost got me, but he's still like 3 feet away. It was pretty far down here. So let's see the original picture. It was like 20 feet down, but he came up here on the rocks, and he's like had 10 feet arms. So he's like reaching up to my boots here. He almost could touch my feet. That's the story.